You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
To know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, let's do this. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Monday, October 7, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. And we are ready to rock and roll here on the show. It is going to be interesting today, to say the least, because we're not in this position very often in sports talk radio in Tuscaloosa, where you're coming off a loss, period, for Alabama football. Furthermore, when you're coming off a loss, when you're the number 1 ranked team in the country and you lose to a team that you'd beaten 23 straight times and hadn't beaten you in 40 years, and you were a 20-plus point favorite. So not the usual Monday here on the Gary Harris Show, but it is what it is. The reality is that Alabama went to Nashville, a place that Nick Saban just a couple weeks earlier had said was the one place in the SEC where you didn't have to worry about a home field advantage. And Alabama did have more than half the crowd there. They took it over, even though the little stadium was already, it only seats 41,000 at capacity, and it was down to less than 29,000 because of construction. But Vanderbilt brought it, and Vanderbilt won the football game 40-35 and earned the football game. They outplayed Alabama. They deserved to win. Alabama could have won. I thought Alabama's offense was as potent as always. They just simply didn't have the ball very much. And the defense just it was a effort and futility, just to be quite honest with you. Couldn't get off the field on third down, couldn't get off the field on fourth down, gave up too many big plays, allowed Vanderbilt to control the football, even at the end of the game after Alabama made it 40-35 with over 2 minutes to go, 3 timeouts and a 2-minute timeout. The Tide could not get the football back and just watch Vanderbilt run out the clock, which is just mind-boggling to me. But we'll jump into all that. We'll jump into the penalties. We'll jump into the illegal participation penalty, which is about as bad a penalty as Alabama's had all year and ever, because of what that penalty wound up representing and how that should never, ever, ever happen to a college football coaching staff, but it did. We'll get into all that. We'll take your phone calls. We'll recap the rest of the SEC and college football weekend. It was crazy, all the top 10 teams that went down from the SEC. And Miami, again, the Atlantic Coast Conference officiating and office has just said, forget it. We don't care what anybody thinks. If it's a close call, we're going to rule in Miami's favor. Obvious targeting on the California quarterback late in that game, which was not called. And then when they went to review targeting, they ruled that it wasn't targeting. It wasn't a personal foul. It wasn't anything. Just no shame from the Atlantic Coast Conference right now in regards to trying to keep their undefeated team undefeated. But it's the new world of college football. It's an entertainment business. It's about money. We've got players left and right in interviews. The Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback dropping F-bombs, the Miami quarterback using off-color language, Cam Ward, and it's just accepted. It's the new world that we're in, I suppose. But it's entertaining, and that's the bottom line that's driving this. If the ratings are good and the games are entertaining, people don't seem to mind all the stuff that's happened in the last few years that's changed the game. For better or for worse, whether it's NIL, the portal, the self-promotion, all the things that go on. And, as long as the ratings are there and the money is there, everything's going to be okay. But under the surface, there's a lot of stuff stirring. And this is a very different game. College football is a very different game than what it was 5 years ago, whether you like that or you don't like that. Whether you think it's good or whether you think it's bad, it's a very different game. That's the reality of where we're at in 2024 as opposed to just 2019. You don't have to go back that far to see how the game was different. And That's where we're at. But anyway, we're going to be getting to your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904. I'm Gary Harris. Chase Brumfield's right there on the other side of the glass assisting me in the program this morning. He'll handle all the phone calls, and we'll get to a call here in just a moment. I'm excited to hear what you folks have to say, but I'm going to get back to the game. And I did the sports Saturday night. I was scheduled to go to Nashville, but our situation right now, we're a little short-handed, and I had to do the sports here. So I worked Saturday night, and then after the game, I did a video piece on social media on what I think. And what is, first of all, it's just my opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just what I think. I thought that Alabama was poorly prepared in the game defensively. I don't care, what your scheme is. You've got to be able to do a better job of defending the option and defending what they do. And Alabama couldn't do it. And was it all coaching? No. If the 4th and 1, for example, I don't know what else you could do there. They had a 5-man defensive front. They brought 2 inside linebackers. They brought 7 people. The guy ran a play action fake, dropped back, waited for the kid to release down the middle of the field and throw the ball 50 yards, and they still didn't get to him. They should have blown that play up. That was the right defensive call. They brought people, and Vanderbilt just out-executed them. On the 2nd and 12, after Alabama made it 40-35, Pavia rolls out. Keanu Coote is bearing down on him. Malachi Moore's got the guy in coverage. He's late getting over. Keanu Coote keeps his hands down by his side and is thinking about tackling the guy. But most defensive edge players are taught, that I've been told, that when you're pressing the quarterback like that and he's about to try to throw the football, that you get your hands up. You get your hands up and you try to affect the pass. He just kind of sidearmed it around him. That was really the ball game right there on that 2nd and 12 when they converted that. And then they got another first down just to put the sugar on top. So I guess what I'm saying is this was not a fluke. This was not a situation where Alabama beat itself. Alabama certainly contributed to the loss, but it was Vanderbilt out executing Alabama is what it came down to. Vanderbilt did what it had to do. They had a great plan. They did come off the bye. Clark Lee has benefited from the portal. He was never going to build a program there trying to go through the high school ranks, trying to build over time. They just didn't get enough players, but he went out and got 50-something players in the portal. He got Diego Pavia. He got Jerry Kill. He got New Mexico State's offensive coordinator. And that kid is a gamer. He's tough. He's physical. He's, again, I'm trying to look at Auburn's situation after what he did to Auburn last year. I'm trying to figure out why they didn't try to get him in there to be their quarterback. But, it's football. It's hard to win every week. So I want to keep that in mind too. I want to give Vanderbilt all the credit in the world, for what they were able to accomplish. At the same time, they lost to Georgia State. Okay. And Alabama's the number 1 team in the country. So it's a bad loss. There's no way to gloss that over. Both things can be true. You can give Vanderbilt credit. You can say they earned it. You can say they're better than they've been. But it's still a bad loss. It's an awful loss. And for Kalen DeBoer and this coaching staff, the ones that haven't been here before, they're going to find out now what goes with being the head coach and a coach at the University of Alabama. This is a place that has high expectations and the fan base is rabid, but they also, when you lose a game like this, you're going to see the other side of it and you're going to have to be able to deal with it. And it's going to be a test for this coaching staff going forward with South Carolina coming in here on Saturday morning. All right, let's start off our phone calls here. Corey from over in Trussville is going to lead us off this morning. Good morning, Corey.
Good morning, Gary. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, my friend.
Well, this is, you said it perfectly. Vanderbilt just flat out wanted it more. The thing that's very frustrating is that when you play a game like this, a lot of times when you play it, when you're the much better, more athletic team, usually a fluke thing happens, like a interception or they just get more turnovers or something. But this was a game where Vanderbilt just flat out whooped Alabama on the line of scrimmage both ways. Well, defensively, on Alabama's defensive side, they whooped Alabama on the line of scrimmage. And Vanderbilt said there's nothing you can do about it. And that's exactly what happened. And that is what's embarrassing, is that you let a Vanderbilt team that has been the doormat of the SEC whip Alabama. And frankly, you saw it do about it. And honestly, it's very concerning going forward, because the last 2 quarters of the Georgia game, Alabama couldn't get off the field on 4th down. Vanderbilt was 12 out of 18 on 3rd down. And I'm concerned about the defense going forward now, because blueprint out there now to get past Alabama's defense. And, other teams are going to use that. And now I know the other teams on our schedule don't run the offense Vanderbilt does. But if you can get past this 4-2-5 defense, you can score on Alabama's defense. And it's concerning, because we know Alabama can score, but if you have an off night on Alabama's offense, Alabama's going to be in trouble defensively, and I'm concerned Alabama's defense is not able to hold up, because this is not the Pac-12. Yes, Kalen DeBoer is a good coach, but this is not the Pac-12 where you can just outscore everybody. This is the SEC in the line of scrimmage. Right now, Alabama is struggling to stop people on defense.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you go back the last 6 quarters, and it's been poor. There's no other way around it. I mean, it got glossed over a little bit in the Georgia game because Alabama won the game, and it was a huge win. And it was a huge win. And people celebrated, and they should have. I mean, that's still a big win when you beat a team that won 42 straight regular season games, and you're the only team really that has beat them in the last 3 years. That was a big win. And I think everybody got a kick out of the rat traps in the building and all of that stuff. But obviously, I said all week long, you'll find out on Saturday whether or not this team put the preparation in, whether or not they did what they needed to do to get ready. And clearly, they did not do as well as they could have. Again, Vanderbilt deserves a lot of credit, and I know Coach DeBoer said Alabama prepared well, but defensively, they just didn't seem to have an answer. And I don't know what else to say. If you prepared well, then what you prepared to do was not the right thing to prepare to do, because you didn't stop them from the first opening drive right through the entire game. They went for over 400 yards of offense. As you said, they made 3rd downs, they made 4th downs, and I thought offensively, actually, Alabama played well. There was the pick 6, which was unfortunate, but they didn't have the ball but 17 minutes and change, and I think ran 30 less plays than Vanderbilt and still put 35 points on the board. But at the same time, you got to play complementary football, and penalties, again, killed this team as well. It looked like an undisciplined football team with what Malachi Moore did at the end of the game, refusing to come off the field, kicking the ball. It looked like a team that lacked discipline to me. All right, thank you, Corey. Appreciate it. Listen, the phone calls are lined up. We're going to take them in the next segment in the order in which they came in. It'll be Jim, it'll be Tom, and it'll be Zach over in Starkville. This hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It's just a better way of banking. I encourage you to find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. And pull extra change in your pocket. Rodney Orr at 9:30. He'll break it down. Casey Smith at 10:30. We've got the Kalen DeBoer audio from Saturday. And like I said, phone calls, 3 of them when we come back on the other side of the break. This is the Gary Harris Show.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. Most of Lamar, Pickens, and Hale counties are in moderate drought. So are portions of Sumter, Southern Greene, Western Perry, and northeastern Marengo counties. The remainder of West Alabama is listed by the U.S. Drought Monitor as being abnormally dry. There is no appreciable rain in the forecast for West Alabama over the next 10 days. 30% of Alabama continues under drought conditions. Click TuscaloosaThread.com throughout the day for more local news, sports, and weather coverage. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special.
Win a brand new Jeep Gladiator. Ride right into the holiday season in style. It's all treats and no tricks this month at Pearl River Resorts. Must be 21 or older to play.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, it is 9:19. We're going to start knocking out these phone calls. We're going to go in the order in which they came in. We've got, it'll be Jim, Tom, Zach, and Ellis. So let's get to Jim here on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, now I was thinking about this during the game, the way it was going. I don't know why they didn't go for two right there towards the end of the half. When they started to, there was a timeout or something. Then they came out and kicked the extra point.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why, the way the game was going, the way Vanderbilt was chewing up the clock and that, is it ain't much difference going in at halftime 9 points down versus 10 points down. All right, you still 2 scores down. Alabama had another chance second half to get it within 1 score. They kicked the extra point. And all I'm saying, it ended up being where Vanderbilt was ahead 33% of the game by 2 scores. And I think that just gives them more confidence. It gives Bama more frustration, knowing that, you got to score more than once just to, take the lead, right, or tie it, So I don't know why they didn't go for it. I mean, because you just about, it could have turned out different. I mean, they would have had to get a 2-point conversion, but like say you go ahead and try. I don't know why they didn't do it. The way the game was going, it's just,
Jim, there's a lot of things that I wonder about. Like I said, at the end of the game, I think if I'm coaching, I would have tried an onside kick there. Just what the heck, try to steal a possession. I agree with you from the standpoint. It was almost like Alabama just was not. Obviously, they didn't expect this outcome, and it's like they were adjusting to the fact that Vanderbilt was whipping their butts. And they almost couldn't come to grips with it and play the game, coach it a little bit differently. I agree. Maybe there's some things from a coaching standpoint that once you saw Vanderbilt was on offense going to be hard to stop. Maybe you change your tactics, but at the end of the day, Vanderbilt outplayed Alabama and won the game, and it's frustrating, no doubt about it.
Yeah, the penalty on the punt hurt, and bad as the defense played at times. The thing that lost, a lot of things contributed, but the pick six and then the fumble, because Vanderbilt had no turnover. So
it made a difference. And the fumble, what made the fumble was so bad was that Alabama was moving the ball there. I think they were going to go down and score. Pritchett got beat bad, and a lot of times you'll see that quarterback get hit and the ball comes out and the offensive tackle is able to fall on it because he's looking right at the quarterback because he's gotten the guys blown by him. But Pritchett was on his knees and couldn't get on the football. If you get on the football there, I'm with you, Jim. It just, it was a frustrating game. And, it's one of those losses that even if Alabama wins the rest of them this year, it'll bug you as a fan. And I'm sure for the players and coaches, it'll bug them for as long as they can remember. Hey, great call, man. I got to keep it moving. We are loaded. Let's get to, let's see. Tom is up next. Yeah, Tom is next. Hey, good morning, Tom.
Hey, Gary, I won't be long. I know others got things to say. But I wanted to point out something, and I want to get your take on this. It's kind of a big picture comment, but I thought that Vandy did some things on their offensive line that created confusion on our defensive line, and the confusion would result in a hesitation on our part. We would hesitate before we made a move. And I thought that with that offense, if you hesitate, they'd hit you and gone. They were quick about getting to the hole and getting in the open. And also, I want to bring this up, and this is what I wanted you to talk to Rodney about if you think it's worthy of a conversation. I think we're seeing in some of these teams an evolution of how people run the ball. The blocking schemes and things like that. And I think Vandy threw that out there at us Saturday, and we wasn't prepared for it. And I just see an involvement of running games. All that firing off the line of scrimmage and pushing the defensive line, that ain't it no more. There's other things, innovative ways to run the football, and I think people are tapping into that.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt Vanderbilt's got a great scheme. I don't think there's any doubt that Jerry Kill is a heck of a coach, and what he did at New Mexico State, and he's brought that and his offensive coordinator and his quarterback to Vanderbilt, and they're hard to defend. There's no doubt about that. Having said that, if you get out physical up front, I don't care what the scheme is, they're going to have success. And their offensive line, for the most part, handled Alabama's defensive line. And I've been worried about this defensive line standing up physically, whether it's the scheme or whatever it is. They're not playing at a level they need to be playing at based on the fact that they've got a lot of highly recruited players. They've got depth, and they need to be more productive. Like I said, on the 4th and 1, it was a perfect example. Pavia shouldn't have been able to get that ball off. They brought 7 people. They had 5 people lined up on the line of scrimmage, and they brought 2 linebackers, and he still had time to have a play action fake, stand back there, and get rid of that football. And they should have blown that play up. They're not producing at the level they need to produce at. Period. The defensive line has got to be better. It's just the way that it is. And on the back end, they're young there, but at the same time, this is a talented defense, and the last 6 quarters have been subpar. He glossed over in the Georgia game. I glossed it over because I just attributed it to the fact that Georgia was desperate and they went for it on 4th down, but they made all the 4th downs and they made all the big plays, and then they just continued this week, Tom. So the defense got to get better, or Alabama's going to lose some more games. Hey, I appreciate the phone call. All right, let's get to it is Zach over in Starkville. Hey, good morning, Zach. Zach, you there? All right, Zach went bye-bye. So we'll keep it going, and we'll get to Zach one more time. Okay, he must have dropped off. Let's get to Ellis. Hey, good morning, Ellis.
Good morning, Gary Harris. I've heard all kinds of things that Alabama wasn't ready for the scheme that Vanderbilt had. But I'm like you, our defense has just not been up to par from the get-go. And something's got to change. We got some work to do on the defensive side of the ball.
No doubt. And I'm not saying they weren't ready for the scheme. I think they prepared for the scheme. I mean, Vanderbilt does what they do. I mean, they had the video to watch. They just didn't defend it well. And as I said, Vanderbilt deserves a lot of credit. I don't want to shortchange them. They executed. Oh, yeah. But at the same time, it was a poor defensive game, and there's no other way around it. I mean, and the early penalties. I mean, I thought the one on Q Robinson was a joke. I thought that was a terrible call. I mean, I watched quarterbacks get drilled in the chest, and they called Q Robinson for basically his hand just brushing up against the helmet. But the face mask was a bad call, and I go back to that illegal participation on the punt. In fact, we got a Uber Steve sent an app message and said that's the second time that's happened this year. I don't remember it, but he said it was the second time. But that's inexcusable. That can't happen. If you're a coaching staff and you're going to allow these players to wear duplicate numbers, which I'm not a fan of to begin with. I've never been a fan of that. You're on defense and you want to wear the same numbers as the guy on offense, too bad. You're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3. That's the way it should be, in my opinion. But if you're going to allow these guys to wear the same numbers, and then on special teams when there's a chance of them, that can't happen. You've got coaches on the field, you got coaches in the press box, you got special teams coaches, you got analysts, you got people to make sure that you don't have duplicate numbers out there and it cost Alabama a touchdown because Vanderbilt got the ball back and went down and scored. That's like a turnover. So, that to me is inexcusable. Of all the things that happened in that game, illegal participation was the worst thing that happened in that game. No excuse for that. Ever.
No, and the people I sat around like Pat, I got to go. I went to the ball game with Pat, and he said the same thing, that it should not have happened. But one more thing, I know, because you're busy. That's the first game that I've ever been to and watched where the time of possession was so lopsided.
Yeah, 40-plus minutes for one team, 17-plus for the other. They absolutely controlled the football, and that's why I said I'd gone for the onside kick. I understand these coaches look at all the analytics, and we got 3 timeouts plus a 2-minute timeout. Want to kick them, but you hadn't stopped them. What made you believe you were going to stop them then?
Yes.
Onside kick it. Maybe you get on top of it. Even if you don't, Vanderbilt's got the ball maybe at 50-yard line. They may be in a different mindset offensively. They may just say, hey, we're going to run the ball 3 times and then punt them deep. When they had the ball at inside their own 20, they were aggressive. They were saying, we got to make first downs here to win the game. And they did. So anyway, hey, listen, man.
We'll see what this team's made of. I agree with everything that everybody's saying in regards to this coaching staff and this football team, and we'll see if they're together, and we'll see if they're on the same page, because if they're not, there's going to be more losses coming. Hey, we appreciate it, Ellis. Good to hear from you. We're going to get to one more phone call before we hit the break. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Gary. Yeah, the difficult number penalty changed the whole complexion of the game.
You're doggone right it did. It's like, hey, listen, one of the few times we've stopped you, one of the few times in the game that we got a 3 and out, but let's run the same number 2 out there. We got Ryan Williams back there catching the punt, but let's make sure we got Xavier Brown on the field as well. I mean, it's inexcusable, and I will not let up on that. You know me, I'm not hard on coaches. I'm not at all. I understand how tough the job is, and I'm not a coach. But something like that, when you got all those coaches and all those staffers and all those people in charge of special teams, and you run out 2 guys with the same number, that's inexcusable.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll tell you, I want to ask you this right quick, Gary. And I used to love Kirk McNair's Bama Magazine, because he had always did a participation chart either in his newsletter or his magazine. But anyway, Mbakwe, did he see the field Saturday?
I think he did. I thought I saw him out there. He's not playing much. Again, I don't know what the situation is. I think he's an incredible football player. I think, in high school, Ryan Williams was 1A and Jalen Mbakwe was 1B in my book. In fact, Mbakwe and Clay Chalkville beat Williams and Saraland for the 6A state championship last year, and Mbakwe was incredible. So I think he did play in the game, but he's not playing much. And I'm, based on what I saw from him in high school, I'm a little puzzled by that too.
I am, and I'll tell you one of the reasons I'm puzzled about it is because, in my opinion, he sparked Alabama's win over South Florida with that punt return. Mm-hmm. So where I'm going with this is I think he would be a really good punt returner if they'd have a little faith in him. Not that Cole's not doing a good job or anything. But
right now, Cole's out there with one arm. He's got a contraption on his arm. It looks like the Terminator. And he's out there catching punts. So I don't.
He made a big catch the other day with that one arm.
But he's a good football player. I just think whether it's Cole, whether it's Ryan, whether it's Mbakwe, I think you got to settle on a punt returner and put him out there and let him return punts. This going back and forth, I'm not a fan of that either. But listen, I'm a sportscaster. You're a fan. We can talk about it and analyze it all we want, and that's what we do, and we get to do it, and we have a right to our opinion. But it's going to be up to those football coaches and those players to fix it, because I'm with you. That's there's some stuff that needs to be fixed. There was some stuff from a coaching standpoint in that game. They need to coach better. And I'll say that, and I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just this is an honest observation. I think they need to coach better. And, it's a bad loss. So now if they go on and win the rest of them, you know what? You'll look back and say, bad as it was, but the margin for error now when you lose to Vanderbilt is small. Hey, I got to hit the break. Thank you so much, Philip. We appreciate all the phone calls. We're going to be back with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com and pick his brain on what happened against Vanderbilt. Look ahead to South Carolina next year on the Gary Harris Show.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Para.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events.
I found out that one of my players was vaping. I brought him in and asked him, where did this stuff come from? He said, it's bigger than you think, Coach. He had told me that almost everybody in my team was vaping. The next day, all the parents came in, and I said, hey, you as parents need to do your part. You guys need to figure out how, why, and when this stuff is happening, and we got to get it fixed.
Coach Sanchez and his team took vaping head-on. Learn how he and other Californians are beating big tobacco at undo.org.
State Community College, 1225 Sports Bar located on the Strip, and Taco Casa.
You're listening to the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Tide 100.9.
12:34. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 12:30 AM WTBC. It's time for Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Tider Insider TV, his book Bigger Than Bama. The inside story of Tider Insider is still on bookshelves, and you can order it as well from RodneyOrr.com. Good morning, Rodney.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
Looking forward to this segment because you've had time to digest what happened on Saturday. I think we were all in shock as we watched it live. I went back and watched it last night, and I'll say this. Alabama could have won that game, but Vanderbilt deserved to win it. And Alabama never led in the game, couldn't get stops when they needed to. I didn't see anything in the replay that made me feel any better about the performance by Alabama on Saturday afternoon. What about you?
Yeah, I haven't actually watched the replay, to be honest with you, but I saw enough live to know that I still have zero confidence. As I wrote in my piece last night, Sunday Thoughts, I saw nothing that indicated to me that Alabama, if they were still playing today, would have stopped them defensively, would have stopped Vanderbilt's offense. But so that was really, I was the offense. You look at what happened there, 35 points and just over 17 minutes of possession time. That's 2 points per minute of possession. So I thought the offense did a great job. Now, looking back at it, as I said last night, just a thought here, was maybe you should have taken the opening kickoff and stayed a touchdown ahead in the game, because defensively, like I said, the third down or all the conversion downs is just kind of picked up where it left off with Georgia. I mean, the 12 of 18, I think it was, on third down, 1-1 on fourth downs. Alabama just simply could not stop them defensively. And, Gary, what was really, as you look at it, I understand when you're looking at the Georgia game, it was one of the most emotional, electric atmospheres I've experienced at Bryant-Denny Stadium.
That's right.
I'm talking about 26 years of covering it. All right, so there is no doubt coming off that game, there is going to be some kind of a letdown. You're going to be flat. I thought Alabama came out, they looked really flat. So, those things are going to happen. But the one thing that I think made Nick Saban great, and I've said this over and over and over again about not only Nick Saban but the SEC. The grind of the SEC is really difficult to manage. Mm-hmm. And I think we found that out a little bit. I think Kalen DeBoer got his first experience of that. You win a big game, you got to manage these emotions. Mm-hmm. And I know they tried to. I know they really tried to. But I think, the magnitude of the win over Georgia, I think it carried over into the Vanderbilt game.
You mentioned something about taking the ball, and in hindsight, I'm with you 100%. Clearly, after the second half at Georgia, the defense, was not at its best in that game. But obviously the feeling was that they would bounce back. That's why you defer. You want the ball coming out in the third quarter. You're not counting on the team going 75 yards against you for an opening touchdown. And at the end of the game, I keep saying it, Rodney, I would have onside kick there. You cut it to 40-35. I know that analytics say, well, you got 3 timeouts plus a 2-minute timeout. You kick them deep. But what have you seen in that game as a coaching staff that tells you we're going to be able to stop these guys? I just, at that point, I'm not living in an analytics world. I'm not living in whether I got time. I'm looking at, hey, we hadn't stopped them the entire game. So I'm going to try an onside kick. And then if I don't get it, they got the ball at 50-yard line, but maybe then they're in more of a conservative mode. We're going to run it 3 times and try to punch you down deep. Once you kick it deep to them, they're inside their 20. They know if they punt the football back, Alabama's probably going to go score. They were in aggressive mode. The 2nd and 12, great play by Pavia. They're back. But I don't understand this. It seemed like in the game there was still this reliance and this belief that the defense was going to get stops. If you can't stop them on 4th and 1 when you bring 7 people and they run play action and the quarterback has time to throw it 50 yards down the field, I have no confidence in your ability to stop them at any point in the game.
Yeah, and I wrote that too, that with 2:44 left in the game, I mean, you really look at kind of the way the game had gone, and the onside kick probably, as low percentage as it is, I think perhaps it was even lower percentage chance that Alabama would stop them, right? I mean, so I think for the feel of the game, you probably, and again, I understand DeBoer's thinking there. I really do. And I guess you would think that eventually we're going to get a stop. I believe in my guys. I know we haven't played well defensively, but I believe we're going to get a stop here. But then on the other side of that, you have to say, look, the reality is we haven't gotten a stop. We haven't played well defensively on conversion downs the last 6 quarters. I'm going to take the chance here with an onside kick, get the ball back, go in, score hopefully with little time left on the clock, and win this game. So again, I understand his thinking on that, but also think that when you look at it, I probably would have leaned towards the onside kick there.
All right, offensively, they move the football. And listen, you get behind the 8 ball. They go 75 yards on you. Then on the third play from scrimmage, you have a pick 6. I get it. You're down 13-0 before, the letters got nicked on the football. But from that point on, the offense moved the ball. I mean, they were explosive. Jalen Milroe, I thought, played great in the game. Clearly, Ryan Williams is a generational talent. The one concern I have is they're just not establishing a running game. You've got some good backs, and I don't know if it's schematically. I don't know if it's the offensive line. I don't know if it's the fact that they were behind. And just can't get a running game going. And I think long term for this offense, you need to be able to run the football in this league.
Well, I'm not really concerned about it in this game. It was 23-7. I think it was dictating the way they played the game. So I'm not really. I think they did have some good runs. I think Jam Miller had a couple of really nice runs. I think Justice Haynes had a couple of runs. Now they haven't, certainly as you said, they haven't emphasized the run even in the last game. I think those 2 guys only got 11 carries. I think they will probably. We'll see that. But at the same time, I think the way this game played out, they were in a mode of, having to play catch up, and they were throwing the ball, and they were having a lot of success doing it. Tremendous amount of success. There was no way Vanderbilt was going to stop them. So I really, in this game, I don't have a lot of issues with the offense. I mean, I think obviously you had a couple of breakdowns that really cost you. I think the pick 6. Not really sure what happened there when the ball got popped up in the air. But and then obviously the sack fumble. I think Elijah Pritchett just really got beat on that one. And then, you had a big play where, and I don't know how this happens. I don't think I've ever seen it happen at Alabama where you had 2 guys on the field with the same number. Maybe it has. Maybe I've just forgotten it. Well, I know the previous week they called the timeout for that. But, that communication there has got to get cleared up because that was really big. I mean, you lost a possession right there. You stopped Vanderbilt on 5 plays. They punt the ball to you. You got it. And then you have that penalty. They go 12 more plays. They score. So that's a big turnaround right there.
Yeah, it's the worst penalty in the game, and it's inexcusable. I'm not going to back off that at all. That can't happen. You've got staff on the field. You got staff in the press box. You got special teams people. You got analysts. You got a number 2 back there catching the punt, Ryan Williams. You can't, have Xavier Brown run out there and be on special. It just can't happen. I mean, it should never happen. So huge play in the game. What happened at the end of the game? I have not said anything about it much, but it's a major point of contention with former players, with fans, with Malachi Moore. After watching some videos last night, it is worse than what I initially thought. He refused to come off the field one time when they sent Hubbard in for him and just gestured back to Kane Womack that he wasn't coming off the field. He kicked the football once it had been spotted. He's a 5th-year captain. Now, it's an emotional game. I get it. You're frustrated. But at best, it's a bad look. And at worst, it's something that should, in some people's opinion, require discipline. What do you make of the Malcolm Moore incident at the end of the game?
Yeah, I mean, he totally, especially as a captain, I mean, there's a lot of responsibility there. I mean, he's setting the tone for the rest of the team. And, he let his emotions get way beyond, the boundary. I think that, Malachi, again, I understand the frustration. I understand that. I wish he would have taken that same kind of intensity from the first play, and maybe he did. I don't know. But, if we saw that kind of emotion throughout the game in terms of using it in a positive way, but, at the end of the game, you've got to be able to control yourself. And to go kick the football like he did, I've never seen anything like that happen in a game. Now, but again, maybe it has. I know it hasn't here, not while I've been following it. And, it's totally out of line. I think that, Kalen DeBoer will handle that as Nick Saban would always say, we'll handle this issue internally. You're not going to know what necessarily the punishment is unless if he doesn't start in this next game. We'll know that's part of it. But again, I think he's got to do something, and I'm sure that he'll handle it in the way that he feels is best.
Do you think there's a discipline issue on this team? Or lack of discipline, I guess is a better way to ask it.
Well, let me say this. I think there's always discipline issues on teams. I think it's how you manage it. And I think Nick Saban was the best at managing it. There were a lot of issues on teams that he had. Even here recently, they've had things that have happened. And people, don't want to believe that. But he dealt with many issues, but he dealt with them in a really good way. And, Damien Harris made these comments last night. Most of them I agree with or thought were really good comments. But, the one thing that this is not Kalen DeBoer, okay? He inherited a lot of this stuff. Just like people talking about penalties and how undisciplined they are. Well, a couple of years ago, they went to Tennessee and had, 17 penalties or whatever it was? They had 17 or 18 in Austin playing Texas that same year. There were a lot of things that happened that were undisciplined. So there's some things that you could say, okay, this is kind of a carryover from the last few years that we've seen. So, maybe it's some things that, he's got to get cleaned up. But like I said, I think the one thing that Damien Harris stood out to me in his comments were when he started rattling off names of players on teams that he played on here at Alabama and how they held each other accountable. That's leadership. Those teams had strong leaders, guys that bought into the Nick Saban culture, the system, all of those things. They held each other accountable. And Saban said it many times. The best teams that he ever had were generally, he didn't have to police them. They policed themselves. And again, this is not on Kalen DeBoer. We saw this deteriorating over the last few years. They didn't have the same kind of culture that they've had. And now I think we're seeing that kind of manifest a little bit on this team. I know a lot of people are complaining about seeing players talk too much trash out there on the field. Maybe that's just where we are now in the game. I hate to hear that. I hate to see that. I think these guys ought to focus on playing the game and maybe talking a little bit less and, let's focus on winning.
Let's get to the defense and address the fact that you got to go out and play defense again this week and every week in the SEC. Get South Carolina at home. There's been a lot of discussion since Kane Wommack was hired about the 4-2-5. I think a lot of Alabama fans, just the idea of 4-2-5, what you're going to play 5 defensive backs the whole game. And, we know that that's become common, 5 Ds, Bs, even 6 DBs under Saban. But to have that as your base defense, and I guess some people are wondering, well, why would you have 5 DBs in the game against an option team? Why would you, why would you be married to a 5 DB scheme when you're playing an option team? The way it went defensively, people are questioning what they're doing and should. That was a bad defensive game. Is this something that defensively they can get fixed?
Well, I saw a good post last night. I think it was from your one of your fellow shows there at Tide 100.9, Miller's Edge, where they were talking about, and I don't know if it was Christian or Corey or who put the post out, but on Twitter, but they said, the base defense is generally you play it 10% of the time and 90% you're doing other things. So I really couldn't sit here and tell you on this conversation, what kind of defense they were lining up in most of the time. They had 5 DBs on the field. I know they looked a little light at the line of scrimmage. There's some at times that they got gashed. I know late in the game, they weren't even. The defensive line was non-existent late in the game. Now I don't know why that was, but Vanderbilt was clipping off 7-8 yard runs when you're trying to get the ball back. Mm-hmm. That's a concern. That's a concern to me. So I really don't know all the issues defensively. I certainly am not qualified to address all of those things. But there's one thing for sure, and I said this going way back, first 2 or 3 games, leading in the Wisconsin game, after the Wisconsin game, I was really concerned about the defense. I was concerned about the run defense, They were getting gashed. They were out of position up front defensively. And I'm not just saying this. I saw it on the TV. I saw it on the screen, or whether I was in the press box, wherever. But also talking to people who've coached defensive line, coached defense, whatever, talking about being out of position. Kane Womack talked about it a couple of weeks ago. So I think up front defensively, they've got to get better. Now, I don't know if it's a scheme. I don't know exactly 100% what it is. But, you know, to be able to get gashed up front the way they did, especially later in the game, it's a real concern. And then you still have receivers running free in the secondary. That 4th and 1, guy was 5 yards behind, you know, Malachi Moore there.
Yeah.
You know, that's not Alabama defense.
Yeah, that 4th and 1 is about as bad a play as you can have defensively. Because in fairness to Coach Womack, he brought 7 guys. They had 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. They brought 2 linebackers. They pressured with 7, and yet the guys, I said, still had time to play action fake, stand back there, throw it over the top, and then the safety gets beat by 5 yards. I mean, it was just such a bad play on every level. And, you know, that's just football, but that's bad play. Bad play in the game. All right, you move forward. There's no choice. That's the way football works. You got South Carolina coming in here. They had a very poor performance at home against Ole Miss. You know, you would think again on paper that Alabama would win this game handily, but I think after what happened on Saturday, it's a wake up call for everybody. You know, what do you see in this game coming up Saturday morning?
Yeah, it's been hard to even move past this Vanderbilt game. You know, but you know, again, like you said, they got pretty dominated by Ole Miss. It was 27-3.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big game here. I mean, I think you know, like I said, offensively, I really like what I see from Alabama. I think they're one of the most explosive teams in the country. Ryan Williams. I mean, we've talked about all the accolades about him, but wow, I mean, he made another incredible play in that game.
Incredible.
Yeah, Jeremy Bernard, man, that was a great catch he made on the sidelines. They've got weapons.
And they were without Kendrick Law, which is a huge loss for a lot of different reasons.
I thought Jalen Milroe probably threw the ball better than I've seen him throw it since he's been here. I think he's gaining confidence. He's seeing things better. That's my perspective. I mean, he made some throws down the middle of the tight ends that I don't really recall him making those throws. He threw it in the seams. He seemed to have a lot of confidence, you know, on a lot. Now, there were a couple of things, you know, guys are going to make mistakes. There's going to be a mistake here or there. You know, obviously going past the line of scrimmage, making that throw down the field, that was a huge, huge play right there. Because if he keeps that ball, he probably gets the first down. And I understand he saw Bernard. It was kind of just a reaction. I get it. But it got to have a little bit better field awareness with him. But thought he threw the ball extremely well. You know, again, defensively, I don't know. You know, somebody got mad last night on Tighter Insider with my kind of the summary that I had, and you know, because I don't know what the defense is going to do, Gary. I don't know how you get it fixed, but you know, it could be a lot more shootouts down the road.
Yeah, right. And one thing I'll say on Milroe, I know that there was the pick six that went off Ryan Williams' shoulder pads, but if everybody on the team will play as well as Jalen Milroe's playing right now, they're going to win a lot of games. He's playing at a high level for the most part. Ronnie, great analysis. It's like I said, it's a stunning defeat. It'll still be a stunning defeat, even if Alabama moves on and has a great season. It's one of those that will stick with you. It's only the fourth time that a number one ranked Alabama team has ever lost to an unranked opponent. 1962 Georgia Tech, 1980 Mississippi State, and 2021 Texas A&M. So, but those teams all were good football teams too. So we'll see what Alabama's able to do. Quick word, TiderInsider.com. I know it's been it's not for the faint of heart right now, but it sure is entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with a credit card if you prefer. There is an address there to send a check. Gives you all our premium information. Also, Gary, like you mentioned, the All Sports Forum. It's our community there, and a lot of really good posters, a lot of great insight and information, opinions, and all of these things there. Really, it's nonstop. It's amazing.
Yeah, you provide great info, but the $48 you pay for it just getting on that forum. It's something else.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, it's nonstop.
And Tider Insider TV tomorrow night at 6:30 on WVUA 23. And I know we're still not on a lot of the major providers, but we're working on it, folks, and hopefully we'll get it fixed soon. Thanks, Rod.
Okay, bud. Take care.
All right, 9:54. We'll take a timeout. And before we do, I'll remind you the YMCA of Tuscaloosa. Y's ready for you when you're ready for the Y. 2300 13th Street downtown. I love working out there. I've been trying to get back in there more regularly here lately and enjoy it, love it, look forward to it, and you will too. The YMCA of Tuscaloosa. We'll be back to wrap up this first hour right after this.
Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama Vanderbilt. We'll do the good moment sponsored by DanielMooreArt.com. We'll talk to Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to Barrett Sallee. And we'll talk to Martin Houston, all starting at 2 o'clock on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
Scoreboard Show from 10 to 11 p.m. The last Scoreboard Show is brought to you by 4th District Congressman Robert Adderholt, Bevel State Community College, 1225 Sports Bar, and Taco Casa.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages.
What makes Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water different? We always bottle our Alpine Spring Water less than 1.5 miles from the spring source. And we're also committed to sustainability. That means all our bottles are made with 50% recycled plastic from 2 of our very own recycling plants. So, when you want the best water nature has to offer, the choice is crystal clear. Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water, bottled at the spring source. Learn more at crystalgeyserplease.com.
For custom screen printing, let Eyecatchers print shirts for your next event. 345-7762. Eyecatchers Screen Printing and Gifts, where getting seen becomes an art.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages.
Appliances with fall savings at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Pricing about September 26th to October 16th. U.S. only. See store online for details. Visit jdpower.com/awards for more details.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show. Only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
For hour number 1 of the Gary Harris Show, plenty of great phone calls. We'll take some more in the second hour. Casey Smith at 10:30, but outside of that, we're guest free. We're also going to have the Damian Harris comments from last night. And like I said, we'll get back to your phone calls. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show is on the way. It's the Monday after. The Monday after, number 1 ranked Alabama goes down at Vanderbilt against the Commodores. First loss to Vanderbilt in 40 years. Since 1984, I was at that game. In Bryant-Denny Stadium, 30-21. Ray Perkins was the head coach. All right, we'll get to the second hour. Stay with us here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
In the NFL, Jets coach Robert Saleh confirmed quarterback Aaron Rodgers has a low ankle sprain and he should be fine for next Monday night against the Bills. Police in Braintree, Massachusetts said Patriot safety Jabril Peppers was arrested Saturday morning and is expected to be charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, strangulation, and drug possession believed to be cocaine. Peppers did not play Sunday. He had been dealing with a shoulder injury last week, and Peppers is expected to be arraigned in court today. With Hurricane Milton approaching Florida's Gulf Coast, the Buccaneers will leave Tampa on Tuesday and spend the week in New Orleans ahead of their matchup with the Saints on Sunday. And in baseball, the Padres...
Just download the free Upside app and use promo code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partially sunny with a high at 85. Turning cooler tonight, clear with the low at 55. And tomorrow and Wednesday, a good supply of sunshine both days, highs around 80. Thursday, a sunny day with a high at 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 73 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show for this Monday, October 7, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld's alongside. We are going to get to some phone calls here in just a minute. Also going to be bringing you the Damian Harris audio on Malachi Moore's actions, the former Alabama and NFL running back, on the podcast that he's a part of. We'll have that for you coming up. And we'll have Casey Smith on golf coming up at 10:30. Great tournament for Bud Colley, former Alabama golfer, over at the Sanderson's Farms tournament in Jackson, Mississippi. Big payday for him, and a lot of needed momentum for Bud Colley trying to come back from injury. Right now, though, we're going to hit the phone lines. Cameron is going to lead us off. Good morning, Cam. Cam, you there? Cam, you there? Oh, we lost Cam, so this ought to be delightful. Let's go to Jeff up in Tennessee. Good morning, Jeff. Jeff, you with me? All right, I don't know if we're having an issue with the phone lines or not, because that's 2 in a row that we everything okay in there, Chase?
It should be. Give me a second.
Okay. All right, Chase is working on it, so I don't know what happened. Cameron, if you're listening, call back there. There, the phone's ringing back. I might have cut them off. All I did was hit air, but we'll see what's going on. We'll get these calls straightened out. Went off without a hitch in the first hour. So, all right, we're going to try Jeff again here. Jeff, you with me?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say, I guess you guys know that Vanderbilt writes that check to Alabama, the $100,000 check, correct?
Who writes a check to Alabama now?
Vanderbilt. When these fines happen, the Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah, they're going to pay. They have to pay $100,000. Absolutely, yeah.
To Alabama, though, you know that, correct?
I do, and Tennessee's got to pay $250,000 to Arkansas.
Arkansas pays Tennessee.
Oh, Arkansas's got to pay $250,000 to Tennessee, yeah, because it's second offense.
Yeah. And what they did, let me tell you, what they did with that, the same thing that Tennessee did. Vanderbilt went downtown through Broadway, downtown. The police didn't stop them, and they threw the goalpost in the Cumberland River.
Yeah,
so they gonna cut it up and sell it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know they pulled it out because they're selling pieces of it. I know that.
Yeah, they're cutting it up and selling pieces. But let me tell you this: as far I only watched the fourth quarter. I didn't watch the whole game. But like you guys said, Vanderbilt, Alabama, got beat. And like I say, that's just the way it is. You can't take opponents lightly. No. But I'll just say this: Malachi Moore's, as far as what he done, like a guy said on Twitter, if it'd been Nick Saban, he wouldn't have a locker Sunday morning. He wouldn't have a locker room. It'd been Nick Saban. Okay? So it's okay on the board. I'm sure he's going to handle it internally and maybe one game suspension or whatever. Like I told the guy, he shouldn't be suspended. He'd be sitting on the pine over there for a long time. I got through with him. He wouldn't be over there just one game or one half or whatever it may be. He'd be over, he might give some NIL money up. He's got any of that.
Well, we'll see what happens, yeah.
So, you know, like I say, but no, I didn't know if y'all know, but they pay the schools now.
Yeah, they do. The Vanderbilt has to pay Alabama directly, and for $100,000, like I said, for Arkansas it was a second offense, so they got to pay Tennessee $250,000. And I like that, and I like that better than paying it to the conference office. If you storm the field against a certain team,
I think it makes the schools that maybe they don't, but they think twice before they do this stuff. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I mean, it's like they said, you know, Vanderbilt record against top 5 schools now is 1-60. So maybe I don't know if they don't think about it, but nonetheless. But now it was a wild weekend, and Kentucky plays Vanderbilt this weekend. They got to be ready.
I think Kentucky will be ready. I like Kentucky in that game.
It's a big weekend for us. We got Big Blue Madness on Friday night and the football game on Saturday. We got Texas and volleyball on Sunday. So big weekend for us. But hang in there, guys. See you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Jeff with a nice call. Hey, is Wyatt in there? Let's rack that call and play it again.
That's first one in a while. So hey, that was good.
It's for Alabama lose to bring out the good in Jeff. He was so happy he couldn't even.
He was just happy because Kentucky was on a bye week and he couldn't get too riled up about it.
But I will say this, that'll be an interesting game. I got a feeling just the way college football is that Kentucky is going to handle Vanderbilt, but we'll see. All right, now we're going to try Cameron. Hey, Cameron.
Hey, Governor, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Cam, got you.
Hey, was that the same Jeff, or have I had too much coffee?
No,
what was that?
Kindler, gentler Jeff. I was prepared to fully be my ears to be ringing, and he called in. I guess just took Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. So.
Man. Hey, man, you know I'm up here in North Georgia, and I looked up, and I don't know if the sky's falling or not, man. I can't really tell. If it is, it's going real slow, man. But hey, question, dude. I listen to the app. I don't have cable out here in the sticks. I heard it on the play call. Did they not shake our hands when we went to midfield?
You mean
at the beginning of the polling pause?
I don't know. I didn't even.
I think they didn't.
Okay.
I heard it because Chris Stewart was going, because they were slurring a whole bunch of profanity. Everybody was just kind of staring. Of course, I deny that. No one did that. But I think they knew exactly what they were doing to take us out of our game,
well,
dude.
Pavia wasn't shy about dropping the F-bombs on SEC Network and even did it in the press conference, which is highly unusual. But that's the New
really off color. Our weird question because it's making its rounds. Do you have any issue with what the coach was dressed in?
You know, I haven't. That's been really happening since the first game when he came out in the hoodie, and now I know a lot of people. When you lose, it all gets magnified or mad because he's wearing a T-shirt and didn't have it tucked in. And
I mean, I guess the vibe was making $10 million. I would kind of. I don't know. I wouldn't dress like, the NBA coaches or nothing, but I think I would.
Yeah, for many years, Coach Bryant always wore coat and tie, and then Ray Perkins wore coat and tie, and then Curry wore the sweaters, and then Stallings wore a tie, and then DeBow started out in a tie and went, but the Saban coaching staff was always dressed all in the same shirts and same collared shirts. So it doesn't bother me. They're coaching football, but it seems to bother a lot of people, and it's
funny. I guess we're all looking at something to be.
Here's the way it works around here, and DeBoer's going to find it out. If he didn't know, you're fine around here until you lose a game. And when you lose a game, every little thing that people have a problem with is going to get magnified. Whether it's what you wear, whether it's the defense you run. I mean, I'm contributing to it as well. I mean, I'm frustrated with a lot of things. But any little thing now, especially when you lose as the number 1 ranked team to Vanderbilt, you're going to hear anything that people don't like now. They're going to come with it. I mean,
here's a question: Does Coach Gary bench Malachi at all? Would you, if you were a coach?
Well, I'll tell you. Let me answer that.
If you don't, that's got to tell you something, man.
Well, I'm going to. Let me answer it, Cam. Here, and if I'm coaching the team, I don't know because first of all, I don't know what went into him being allowed to get to that point. I don't know. What have we done as coaches have made him think, though, that he's allowed to not come off the field when we send somebody in there? So I think probably for me, I would probably suspend him a game. I'm just saying, I don't want to take his passion away from him, but there's one thing to have passion. It's another thing to carry on the way that he carry on. And as a captain, I do think that's a bad look for Alabama football. That's just me.
Man. Yeah, I mean, that's how everybody. Hey, there's got to be repercussions, man. It can't. What would Saban have done? He would have yanked them off the field and walked out. I mean, whatever. That should have, could have, would have. Hey, man, last thing, and I got to go. Man, I am sure glad. I don't know if it matters or not. There is a 12-team playoff this year, brother. I mean, it was just timed perfectly for Saban to step off. We lose after. My wife was 2 years old when we lost last to Vanderbilt. That's scary. But I don't know if we'll make it, but it's a good year to be a 12-team playoff.
Well,
as long as we can get that 12.
After that loss Saturday, it is a good thing for Alabama to have a 12-team playoff.
Lord oh mercy, man. It doesn't even matter because, Georgia going to wipe it. And last thing, dude, did Kirby opened up Pandora's box and found the niche? And Vanderbilt exploited it. Everybody, if we don't make adjustments, it's going to be a long season, brother. We've got to make adjustments, brother.
Well, they'll work on it. All right, Cam.
Let me run, brother.
All right,
roll the tide, homie.
Yeah, the one difference between Vanderbilt and Georgia is totally different offensive systems. So, but got to play better defense, man. You can't be giving up. They've given up 34 and 40 the last 2 weeks. That's 74 points. It's 37 a game. You got to be better than that. All right, it's 10:14 here on the Gary Harris Show, and it's a great time to play around in golf. The weather this week is just going to be splendid. I mean, it is just going to be absolutely exquisite weather. Finally going to get some cooler temperatures at night. It's going to be really, really, really cool, and days are sunny. And Tall Pines Golf Course is ready for you. A hidden gem in Tuscaloosa. Open for public play Tuesday through Sunday. Call to make a tee time, 205-556-1232. It's a beautiful little neighborhood there at Woodland Forest, and the trees are going to start turning. You'll enjoy getting outside. You'll enjoy the golf course as well. That's Tall Pines Golf Course. Memberships are available as well. Call to make a tee time Tuesday through Sunday, 205-556-1232. All right, we're going to come back and play that Damian Harris audio where he was highly critical of Malachi Moore and his thoughts on Alabama football, the former Crimson Tide running back, NFL running back. We'll have that for you. Plus, we'll take more phone calls, 205-342-9904 on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. Casey Smith on golf at 10:30.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now, smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible. It's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
And Fridays at the Free every Friday during football season with Tide 100.9 and Innisfree Irish Pub located at 1925 University Boulevard, downtown.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside.
I found out that one of my players was vaping. I brought him in and asked him, where did this stuff come from? He said, it's bigger than you think, Coach. He had told me that almost everybody in my team was vaping. The next day, all the parents came in, and I said, hey, you as parents need to do your part. You guys need to figure out how, why, and when this stuff is happening, and we got to get it fixed.
Coach Sanchez and his team took vaping head-on. Learn how he and other Californians are beating big tobacco at undo.org.
800-426-1886. 800-426-1886. That's 800-426-1886.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partially sunny with a high at 85. Turning cooler tonight, clear with the low at 55. And tomorrow and Wednesday, a good supply of sunshine both days, highs around 80. Thursday, a sunny day with a high at 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 76 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
10:19. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 12:30 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports. Gary Harris, Chase Brumfield, Wyatt Fulton's already hanging out with us. He's getting ready for T-Town Sports Daily at 11 a.m. Is Wyatt in there with you, Chase, still? Wyatt, drive the mic just real quick here. We're going to get to Damien Harris's comments, but you were there. I did not get to go because I had to wind up doing the sports Saturday night. But Alabama once again dominated the crowd. Just being there, and you're going to dissect the game. I've dissected the game. What was it like from just the Alabama media corps? Was everybody just stunned?
Yeah, and I mean, even when, Alabama scored the touchdown their final touchdown to get to 35 points, like, that was a Bama crowd. That sounded like a home game inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, minus, several thousand fans, because there was only 29,000 in that stadium. And yet it still looked 80-20 Bama, at least from our view in the press box. I looked down at the stands beneath us as well, and it was probably 80-20 Bama in that stadium. And you could tell it, I mean, the reaction when Ryan Williams made the incredible play to score his touchdown, like, it was loud. It was a Bama home game is what it sounded like, and yet Alabama just couldn't get a stop. Now, at that point in the game, the defense had, been on the field for, I think, close to 36 minutes by that point.
Which is their own fault.
It was absolutely their own fault. You can never allow a team to convert 12 third down conversions like that. But, sitting in that stadium and reliving it, rewatching it, I've already rewatched it a couple of times as well. If any of those plays go differently.
Oh, sure.
I mean, if Malachi's not beat on that fourth down. By the way, I just looked at it.
I think people that they pressured with to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say Deontay Lawson got caught with the play action. If he just bites on the quarterback immediately, that's probably a sack. That's probably a negative play for Vanderbilt. But, it looked like Malachi may have even sent Red Morgan off the field at that point. I don't know if Red Morgan was an extra player, if they were trying to sub him out or what, but Malachi sent a player off the field on that fourth down. So I'm not going to say whether or not it was supposed to be Malachi off the field or if Malachi was, counting numbers and making sure they only had 11 on the field. But if he doesn't get beat on that fourth down, if you don't get called for the illegal numbering penalty, if Elijah Pritchett doesn't get beat on that sack, or if they stop Vanderbilt on any of those third downs, Bama wins that game despite getting outplayed.
If you get the offense more snaps, more possession time, more opportunities, you're going to win the game. We're so focused on Alabama's defense playing poorly. Alabama's offense was going to score against this team, especially you could see it in the second half. You're right. The Pritchett play is huge because if Pritchett can just get back on the ball, but it's a turnover, and Alabama was ready offensively to explode here, but defensively just couldn't do it. Let me ask you about the edge that Vanderbilt had, not having been there, because you're not used to Vanderbilt being edgy, and Clark Lee is such a low-key guy. But they were a little cocky. They were a little arrogant. Is there anything to what Cameron called in about them not shaking hands at the toss? Did you notice that before the game?
No, I don't think. I think that was all blown out of proportion. Okay. Just Vanderbilt thought they had a really good game plan. Yeah. I mean, they ran a military academy triple option. Yeah. Is what they ran. Yeah. There were multiple plays where Pavia could keep it himself or hand it off to the back on the play action, keep it himself, or pitch it to the second running back in the backfield there with him. And then when Alabama at the start of the second half, remember they started kind of figuring this out. They threw in that shovel pass to Eli Stowers, and they just couldn't. I mean, you almost can't stop a quadruple option like that, because that's essentially what Vanderbilt was running. Now, granted, they should have been able to stop it. Alabama should not lose to Vanderbilt. I'm not excusing this loss. There are still some positive signs with this defense. Are there questions? Absolutely. But you can't dwell on it. It was our fault, too, as media members, that Alabama kind of was still reminiscing on Georgia, because it's Wednesday during the SEC teleconference, and we're still asking questions about Georgia. We're still asking about the Georgia game.
Last Monday at the press conference, I don't think there was a single Vanderbilt question asked.
No, there wasn't.
So, and listen, but the coaches were part of that, too. They continued to talk about the Georgia game. DeBoer could have said any time last Monday, hey, listen, we're going to talk about Vanderbilt. But he continued to entertain questions and talk about that game. It did stay around too long.
It did. Part of it was on the coaches. I liked what they were doing about the rat traps, but it seems like they weren't They weren't heeding their own message. Now, maybe they were. Maybe, because Vanderbilt did get out to that big lead, 7-0, and then the offense goes out for their fourth snap of the game, and they're down 13-0 already.
The problem with the rat traps is it's gimmicky. When Saban came out with the rat poison quote, that was awesome. That grabbed everybody's attention. Now, though, it's been removed for a couple years, and you're throwing rat traps around the building. I think players are laughing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't think that grabs their attention like, oh my God. Obviously it didn't grab their attention. So
no, it clearly did.
Preparation and game planning and execution are what wins games at the end of the day.
It is. And, I think Alabama, they were able to run this football, right? Jay Miller had 5 carries for 45 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, this should have been Alabama is going to run this clock and get out of here with a win. And yet it wasn't. Vanderbilt took multiple drives where they had the ball for 7, 8, 9 minutes. And so Alabama had to change their offensive game plan and go more explosive, go big play. And so that didn't allow guys like Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, even Jalen Miller on the run game to really kind of get in their groove, find their rhythm, and become, a really strong offensive team. Now, again, 18 minutes of possession time, little under 18 minutes, and you score 35 points. Nick Sheridan, Kalen DeBoer, and the offense are not the issue here. It's Alabama's defense, and that's where the questions are going to come all week long. Going into South Carolina, that's going to be the question. And even if Alabama beats South Carolina, 55-7, whatever. I'm not saying that's going to be the score, but let's say they adjust. Let's say, they smoke South Carolina for the sake of this argument. Doesn't matter, because the question is going to be, hey, can you make the adjustments necessary to stop Josh Heupel in Tennessee next Saturday?
Well, this is a stain. I rattled off.
It's embarrassing no matter what.
I rattled off the 3 other times this has happened and I wasn't even alive in 1962, but I still, growing up, following Alabama, knew that Georgia Tech beat Alabama in 1962 when Alabama was number 1 and they weren't ranked. I lived through the 1980 game, Mississippi State, and they still do things about that over in Mississippi. This game for Vanderbilt, they'll be talking about it for 50 years to come, and the game 3 years ago at Texas A&M. They're, one of the biggest wins in their history. So you never undo this, but the goal now is to move on and make this just a stain where you look back at the season and you say, well, that's embarrassing, but we're sitting here 10-2, 11-1, going to be in the playoff. Because let's be clear too on this, Wyatt. Maybe it was a good year to throw. It's different now. It is different. It's much more like the NFL. The goal is to get in the playoff. Period.
It's not do or die yet. You've still got, an 11-1 Alabama team who doesn't make the SEC championship, only losses on the road to Vanderbilt. That's a playoff team. You're going to the college football playoff as an 11-1 Alabama team.
11-1, I'm betting you they're going to be in the SEC championship game. I can tell you that
If they're 10-2 and miss the SEC championship with a loss on the road to Vanderbilt and a loss on the road to insert team here, Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma, whoever, that's still a playoff team. Now, granted, they may have to go on the road for the playoff, may not host in Bryant-Denny Stadium, but that's still a playoff team.
If this team can get to 11-1, I'm pretty sure they're going to be in Atlanta. Hey, let's get to Jimmy over in Birmingham. Hey, good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning, guys. I got a question. I don't know if you guys noticed at the end of the game. First of all, I saw no emotion from some of the leaders, like Jalen on the sidelines. I saw nobody getting up in the guys' faces. But one thing that stood out to me, I don't know if you saw this clip. There was a state trooper, and it was a Tennessee state trooper. It wasn't Alabama. He was talking to Jalen. There was 1:18. We had a couple of timeouts left. And did you guys observe this? Have you heard anything, maybe what he was talking about? Somebody said, well, maybe he was going to protect him at the end of the game. Well, the game wasn't over, and we still had time. And I didn't know if you noticed it. No,
I didn't notice it. Run the scenario by me one more time, Jimmy, because I'm trying to digest what you said, because I did not notice it. Why I may have.
I've actually got the video. If I could text it to you when I got off the phone, but I went to my TV and
you can text it to me. Stay on the line, and Chase will give you my number. You can text it to me. We'll get off. But explain it to me one more time so I can kind of hear what you're saying.
Because about 1:18, there's a shot of the bench. Jalen's sitting there, just kind of no emotion. Right. I mean, and look, I'm 67. It's totally different 60s and 70s when people got in your face. But I kept thinking, well, why is he sitting there looking like that? Well, the state trooper walked over and was talking to him, and then he looked and kind of walked away, and he came back and he looked at him, and I read Jalen's lips, and the last thing he said is, "I will." And you could read his lips saying that. So anyway, I'd love for you to take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I don't know. I'm trying to remember if that point, once Vanderbilt got the first down, it was bad. Of course, once they got the second first down, the game was over. Was there still a chance for Alabama to get the football back there at that point in the game?
Yes, there was 1:18 timeout or two left.
Okay.
Yeah.
1-8. So I know exactly what you're talking about there, Jimmy. Wyatt. It was 1:18. There were 2 timeouts left for Alabama. Yep. Vanderbilt had just gotten the first down. Jalen was on the sideline looking at the iPad, trying to figure out, okay, if I get a chance at a Hail Mary, if I get a chance at something here, what do I need to do? Who do I need to target? And so he was looking at the iPad, and then the state trooper came over and said, hey, if they rush the field, we got to get y'all out of here. Basically what it was is they were saying, look, they're going to rush the field. We need to have a game plan to get you guys off the field so that way you're safe, nothing happened. You don't have any sort of incident like you had, when Tennessee rushed the field a couple years ago. And even Arkansas, I don't know if y'all saw this, a Tennessee player absolutely shoved some Arkansas fan when Arkansas rushed the field. And so they were trying to say, hey, look, we don't want this to happen. We don't want there to be a situation like this. I'm going to help you get off the field. Come find me.
Jalen was still dialed in.
Jalen was dialed in. They were looking at the iPad trying to figure out if they've got an offensive shot here.
All right, but you still send me the video. I've been saying for some time, though, that there's going to be an incident, a big incident in one of these crowd rush situations. It's coming.
Well, the goalpost. I saw the goalpost and all those people. I said, "Oh my gosh, somebody's going to get crushed."
Yeah,
and die right there on the field. I don't know how it fell when nobody getting.
It's coming, and you almost saw it with one of these. I've seen this before where players have come close to going after fans. I'm not going to mention it, but I've been on the field a couple times where players had to be held back, and you're also going to get a situation where you're going to have one of these big college football players is going to wear one of these kids out, and it's coming. I'm just telling you, man. Emotions are high, but anyway, Wyatt saw it clearly, Jimmy. But yeah, if you want to stay on the line, after I get off the phone with you, and Chase can give you my number, and you can text me the video, and I'll take a look at it. Thanks, Jimmy. All right, we got to get to the break because we're coming back with Casey Smith on golf. We will also talk about Alabama football with Casey as well, big Alabama guy, but big weekend for.
What makes Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water different? We always bottle our Alpine Spring Water less than 1.5 miles from the spring source. And we're also committed to sustainability. That means all our bottles are made with 50% recycled plastic from 2 of our very own recycling plants. So, when you want the best water nature has to offer, the choice is crystal clear. Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water, bottled at the spring source. Learn more at crystalgeyserplease.com.
Quality to our customers. So we just look at it as, hey, basically, we're your kitchen. You're just coming to eat in your kitchen. Taco Casa, under the biggest cactus in town.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hours.
What makes Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water different? We always bottle our Alpine Spring Water less than 1.5 miles from the spring source. And we're also committed to sustainability. That means all our bottles are made with 50% recycled plastic from 2 of our very own recycling plants. So, when you want the best water nature has to offer, the choice is crystal clear. Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water, bottled at the spring source. Learn more at crystalgeyserplease.com.
Or enjoy free shipping to your home on purchases over $25. Your new Academy Sports and Outdoor store is located at 4610 U.S. Highway 280 in Birmingham.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:34. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and that music means it's time for Casey Smith on golf. First, though, I do want to read the apology just issued a few minutes ago by Malachi Moore, the fifth-year senior captain of Alabama football, on social media. He says, I want to apologize to my teammates, our coaches, the fans, our alumni, and my family for the way I acted on Saturday. I was completely out of line. I let the emotions of the game get the best of me and put myself before the team. As a two-time captain and a fifth-year player, I understand the standard that we are expected to live up to at Alabama, and I failed to do so by acting in a selfish and unacceptable manner. I came back this season to represent myself, this team, and the university because it means something to me. I'm blessed to be able to wear the A on my chest, and I know all that comes with the responsibility of representing this program. I will do better to uphold the Alabama standard moving forward and will continue to work and improve while conducting myself in a first-class manner. So, nice apology there by Malachi Moore. Again, we have Kalen DeBoer coming up at noon today. Coordinators at 11:30. You'll hear that live here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTVC. Don't know if there's going to be any type of disciplinary action for Malachi Moore or not, but we will see. And he did issue a very nice apology. All right, let's get to Casey Smith on golf. And Casey, of course, big Bama fan, too. So before we get to golf, we'll get your thoughts. Casey, good morning, first of all. How are you?
Hey, doing great, Gary. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, as far as the football goes, it's a, shocking win, first time in 40 years. I think it goes back to one thing, and the portal's going to equal parity, not to make any excuses. I think, when this happens, friends with many ADs, one being the former deputy AD at Alabama, the AD at Georgia Tech, he pointed to this right away. He's a friend. He was like, you're going to have teams like Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech and schools like that get some guys in. They're going to make a difference in games and even a game up like we just saw. Everyone would like to have it back. They played a perfect game. Congrats to them. I thought the coach called a perfect game. We obviously had some issues, but when your offense scores 35 points in 18 minutes, you just needed the ball more, right? I mean, that's really what you point to. I think there's a lot to point to for the offense going forward. And, look, there's a lot of teams that have lost around the country. Now you still control your own destiny. You just got to go out one game at a time and win out, right? And maybe then we win this week, win another week. We won't hear all the people upset about what Kalen DeBoer is wearing on the sidelines.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like I said, you lose a game around here and everything that's kind of been under the surface that people have been complaining about but not saying anything about. Once you lose a game, then it all comes out. I mean, every problem.
You would think it would be a parody almost if I read on my phone the text messages. I could never read their names of some of the stuff that I have.
Yeah. Well,
I hate to laugh about it, but you have to laugh about it a little bit because it's sort of rip off the rearview mirror, get ready for South Carolina, right?
That's right. You got to move on. And that's the great thing about sports until it's the last game. You can't let things linger. And you clearly wonder how much that Georgia game lingered. Wyatt already pointed out that, and I pointed out Monday at the press conference last week, I don't think there was a single comment hardly about the Vanderbilt Commodores. It was all about Georgia. And Wednesday on the teleconference with Coach DeBoer. And, he can only answer what he's ask, and he is very accommodating to the media, but at some point you wonder if he should have just cut it off and said, listen, guys, we're moving on. We need to talk about Vanderbilt. We don't need to continue.
A day game in Nashville where it's 90 degrees and it's just dead. You could tell there was flatness everywhere. I don't think those offensive players get flat because they want the ball. They want to score. Mm-hmm. Those defensive players, it's a little different. That intensity to come up, fill a gap, hit someone, all of that stuff. That's the stuff that looked really flat early on. And then, the one thing I thought we would have done differently maybe was the guys rolling to a strong hand, throwing that way very successfully in a zone. You sort of bring pressure to that hand, make him throw and roll the other way, get him off balance, get it out of his hand as quick as you can. It's almost like a basketball point guard that's really strong, dominant with a right hand. You got to force him to go left. It gets the offense all out of whack. But, hey, it is what it is. At least it's not the second loss and puts everyone, into really the sky's falling. We beat Georgia a week ago. Vanderbilt's a lot better, I think, than everyone thinks, even though they lost to Georgia State. They've improved a lot since then.
No doubt. Listen, they hit the portal. Nothing else. They brought in that New Mexico State brain trust that laid it on Auburn last year. They brought in Jerry Kill, the head coach. They brought in the offensive coordinator. They brought in Degio Pavia, who's a gamer. There's no doubt about it. So I give Vanderbilt a lot of credit. You're right. They're a lot better. Still, it's an awful loss. It's a stain. No matter how many more championships you win, what you do at Alabama. This game is always going to be mentioned, Casey, with 1962, the loss to Georgia Tech, 1980, the loss to Mississippi State, in 2021, the loss to Texas A&M. Those are the only times in this game that Alabama's number one team lost to an unranked team. So it'll always be a stain, but it is about what you do going forward. Of course, the question everybody's having this morning is, what can you do with this defense? I mean, this defense, they got shredded in the second half against Georgia. Really, we saw it early on with some games, Wisconsin, South Florida, where guys were running open in the secondary and the quarterbacks just didn't hit them. This defense has got some issues now, my friend. There's no way around that. And I don't know if it's personnel. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know what's going on, but they've got to play better defense because you can't count on beating everybody 45-40 going forward.
Well, because you can't control how much you have the ball. Right, that's a little out of your control. Mm-hmm. Knowing we can score as much as we can score at will on anyone. I agree with you. Got to look in the mirror on defense and make some changes. That's for sure. Can't play like we did the last 6 quarters.
All right, let's get to golf because it was a big Alabama presence at the Sanderson Farm Classic at the Jackson Country Club on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Not as big a presence as we would have liked because some key guys didn't make the cut. I really thought Nick Dunlap would win the tournament. He was okay. He was okay, but the story was Bud Colley, who had a chance to win this thing and wound up getting a top 5. He missed a short par putt. He still would have finished one shot back, but that kind of killed his momentum too. If he makes that par on 16, who knows? Maybe he makes a couple of birdies coming in to get in the playoff. But huge week for Bud Colley trying to come back from that major medical exemption. What does this do for him, a top 5 finish?
Yeah, I mean, congrats to Bud. And congrats to Kevin Yu on his first win. Bud goes from 186 to 152 in the FedEx Fall standings. If he could get inside the 150, he gets conditional. If he gets inside the 125, he gets his card. So still got 5 events left. This is a really good event this week for him. The Black Desert Championship, first time for the tour to ever go to Utah. It's in a really cool environment, what it looks like. It's in a lava field. I don't think you'll have the strongest field because the prize money is not quite even what it was at Sanderson. I would hope he goes out there and just stays hot and has a good week. Love to see him get inside that top 125 because I think when you get in there, you can still, earn your card. But we had a lot of guys finish really good that's continuing to help them in this end of season fall FedEx Cup fall race. Pat Gazar finished 11th, Dunlap 28, Trey 42, Lee Hodges 48, missing the cut. Davis Riley Wilson Furr barely missed, and Robbie Shelton. And FedEx Cup fall standings as it stands today with the guys we track: JT's at 14th, Sepp 27th, Dunlap 49, Patton 71, Davis 77, Lee Hodges 81. Robbie Shelton, 150, really needs some help. Bud, 152. Furr at 184 and Trey at 217. Likely to not finish, maybe they get a win or something jumps them up. But you got 2 guys that can really help themselves, and I think all of the others are secure now. Lee's going to be secure at 81. So lot to watch. Good that Patton Gazar, one of our guys, wins a couple of weeks ago, and good to see Bud Colley really jump up from 86 to 152. That win would have put him inside around 89, 90. So that's why I was like, man, he's pretty much secure if he could get that win. A second probably gets him inside the top 125. But really, ultimately, still overall a great week for Bud Colley.
Yeah, it really, really was. And a lot of interest in that tournament. I want to ask you about Davis Riley. Grew up in Hattiesburg, probably played that Country Club of Jackson course more times than he can count. And was just awful. Now, he came back a little bit in round 2, but a brutal first round. Really surprised by that. And you continue to talk about his swing. He's a 2-time winner on tour. But what's holding him back? Because the talent doesn't seem to match the results.
Yeah, in 2 rounds of golf, he made 12 birdies and on the PGA Tour and 6 bogeys and a double, right? So there's obvious issues that are causing these bogeys and doubles. If you take all of that away and you finish 12 under or 10 under and just had a bogey around, you're in the mix. You're in the mix. Lee Hodges finished 11 under for 4 days. He finished 48. There's obvious some type of block in there that causes. We've seen it from the time when he had a chance to win and didn't to some of those events down the stretch. A couple of those times where he had a swing, hit it out of bounds, made a double. there's some type of block in there, something that's causing this under the gun. Because there's also this really good. You see this like swing built in a lab. Guy goes out and makes 12 birdies in 2 rounds. I mean, the second round he made 10 birdies, but he made a double and he made a bogey. And when you're playing like that, lights out, you'd hate to know that you made 5 birdies on the front and only shot 2 under. You know, that's chills a PGA Tour player. Now he did respond and come back and make 5 birdies on the back, but as far as competing against your peers, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And Gary, I would say this, I don't know if you checked this out or not, but Frankie Zappin, former Alabama player, actually finished 3rd yesterday and on the Korn Ferry Tour season points list and secured his card for next year. So he had a really good year out there. And then Rocco Mediate also won on the Champions Tour. He's somebody I've gotten to know over the years. We have a couple of mutual friends, and that's winning in 4 different decades for him. He's won on PGA Tour or Champions in 4 different decades. And the final, I know the golf thing that was really interesting is the Dunhill Links in Europe is a really big event played at the Old Course, finishing there. It's a pro-am. A lot of the guys play with their dads. Terrell Hatton goes and wins, but Rory and Billy Horschel. Rory played with his dad in the first 2 rounds. Billy Horschel played PGA Tour commissioner, and Yasser, or Horschel played with Yasser, the PIF leader. So they had lots of talks, all of those guys talking. It seems like that deal you've asked me about a lot is getting really closer. All sides seem kumbaya. Now we're just getting down to the final. But Terrell Hatton won that event for the 3rd time. I thought it was really interesting. Rory McIlroy's dad's 65th birthday was on the Saturday night, and on Sunday morning he said, "We all needed cold showers and some double espressos. We went a little late in the night here, celebrating Dad's 65th before my final round."
Oh, man.
So I just find that interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so great synopsis there. When do you think we see a combined tour or interactive between the 2 tours? When do you think all this comes together?
Well, I mean, I think you pretty much see that they have by the end of this year have to get something in writing and done to where then they can fill the schedules for future years. So if you look to when the PGA Tour season ends this year, mid-November, till the end of the year, somewhere between now and the end of this year, they've got to get something, on paper so they can start planning this, bringing everyone back together. If it's a staggered out, stepped out process, but it looks like all systems are go from all sides. Now, everyone in golf getting this all back together. I would say that you probably see them late 25, the fall season 25 of some sort, bringing everyone back together. And I think they probably in the TV rating, subject to television contracts and companies, they're going to want them to try to get something done as fast as possible so they can get those live guys playing in these events throughout the year of this 2025 year.
Yeah, I still don't know how I feel about it. I still just hate that, there was ever a live in the first place. But that's just me, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes. All right, before we close it out, I do want to ask you about Justin Thomas.
I'd say this. I think that you and I were in charge with some common sense in charge. There wouldn't have been a live.
Yeah, that's a thing. It probably should have been avoided. All right, let's get to JT. He's kind of stuck here. He was on the fast track, and he's still going to be a Hall of Famer. But last couple of years, man, the wins have stopped, and we know how competitive it is out there. Great players are coming on, younger players every year. He's still what you would consider in his golfing prime at 31 years of age. But what does he need to do to get back to winning some golf tournaments?
Well, he needs to. I'm sure right now going through about to be a dad for the first time. Some of that is going to probably also change, and live players coming back is going to make it even more competitive. So I would say his putting is probably the thing that's just held him back, and making sure that your strengths are still your strengths. I mean, when he overcame bad putting and bulky putting at times by elite ball striking And so I think it's twofold. Better get back to where you're the best top 2 or 3 iron player on tour, because you're going to get more chances, and that will overcome the bad putting. And then the other is just really trying something different, maybe as the putt, in putting. You don't want to just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you're not going to getting different results, you're getting the same results. So I think we're all banging our head against the wall. But you obviously know he's out there working hard at it. So I'm thinking it's putting and just making your strengths.
Great segment as always, Casey, and got a little football in as well.
Gary.
So appreciate it. If people want to give you a follow on social media, how do they do it?
That's SmithKC10 on X, and thank you for having me. Great day.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Casey. 10:50 here on the Gary Harris Show. All right, we're going to try to take a break and come back with Damian Harris's comments. I read you the apology by Malachi Moore, thoughtful apology, but we'll hear what Damian Harris had to say about Moore's actions next here on the Gary Harris Show.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama-Vanderbilt. We'll do the Good Moment sponsored by DanielMooreArt.com. We'll talk to Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to Barrett Sallee. And we'll talk to Martin Houston, all starting at 2 o'clock on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa.
Now and save big and discover why so many are switching to BMW. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partially sunny with a high at 85. Turning cooler tonight, clear with the low at 55. And tomorrow and Wednesday, a good supply of sunshine both days, highs around 80. Thursday, a sunny day with a high at 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 77 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Want to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Download the Tide 100.9 app today.
For 13, Malachi Moore. Now, brother, I don't know you, but I'm not trying to complete and utter bullshit. You are a 2-time captain, somebody who has your hand and footprint at Denny Chimes. Well, how did you show up yesterday? The only thing I remember seeing from you is slamming the guy's head on the ground unnecessarily, punching yourself, throwing your mouthpiece, kicking a foot in front, like not even in a way of like, okay, nobody's looking. Like, I'm bigger than the game. I'm bigger than the team. I'm bigger than this moment. Hey, everybody look at me. Look at how pissed off I am. Look at what I got to say about it. Let me pick up a ridiculous 15-yard penalty for literally no apparent reason. And you call yourself a 2-time captain? I can tell y'all what would have happened in the days that I was there. We would have tried to rip the C off of his jersey. We would have lit him up. From every coach, every player, Reuben Foster, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deron Payne, Jalen Hurts, Jerry Jeudy. Everybody would have been on this dude's head. Like, what? Like, we don't do that. What's up with that? If we go out there and we get beat, we're going to handle all of our issues internally. But no guy is bigger and above this program. So you don't get to act like that. But I'm going to tell y'all exactly why he feels like he can't act like that. Is you go and you look at what Kalen DeBoer said in his post-game press conference about Malachi Moore. Oh, well, he's one of our guys and he's one of our leaders. And yeah, we expect him to use this and only bring positivity for the rest of the season. Man, damn that. What's up with that? That don't help you win games. That does not help you control the talent and the level of guys that you've never coached before, guys that you've never had experience with at a program that you don't have. You don't know what it takes to win these kind of games. And you just come in here trying to be everybody's buddy. You try to be everybody's friend. Well, what does that get you? That gets you beat against Vandy on the road. That pisses me off because I got some hardware. It's because I was somebody that did it. I was somebody that lived it. I was
got 2 championship rings for those who are just listening.
2 natties, 3 SEC championships. I lived it. I lived by the code. I played the game the right way. I listened. I had somebody there in Nick Saban who put me in a position to be accountable for my performance, good or bad, to handle myself with respect and with class. And we're just not seeing that. So Alabama, what's up?
Wow. Now, listen, that's Damian Harris. He said it. He laid out his credentials. 3-time SEC champion, 2-time national champion, terrific running back. played several years in the NFL. That's from a podcast with he and Chris Fanani and David Ubben, I should say. And we're going to close the show out with that. Malachi has issued an apology. I read it to you earlier. You can find it on social media. You can find it on my Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page or at Gary Harris _WVUA 23 on Twitter. We got more coming up. Wyatt and Chase are going to be here. 11:30 coordinator press conferences. 12 o'clock, Kalen DeBoer. Going to be very interesting to see what comes out of these press conferences today. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Gary Harris Show. Catch me on TV tonight if you can get us. I know we're still dealing with the transmitter issues on WVUA 23. You can also watch WVUA23.com live stream and download the WVUA 23 app. So for Chase, I'm Gary. Thanks for listening. Hey, we'll be back again tomorrow with another wild show. That's what happens when Alabama loses. It's good for talk radio. Have a great day, everybody.